Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Stephen Romo in for Savannah Sellers. And right now on Morning News Now, meeting in the middle, developing this morning. Progress, but still no deal, just days from the debt limit deadline. Both President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy agreeing default is off the table after one-on-one talks.
Both know we have a significant responsibility.
We both agree that we need to change the trajectory, that our debt is too large.
We have team coverage with the latest on negotiations and what hitting the ceiling could mean for you. Security scare breaking overnight. The Secret Service investigating a crash involving a U-Haul truck just steps from the White House. The new information coming in this morning about serious charges, plus what we're learning about one particular item investigators say they found at the scene. Legal challenge. This morning, TikTok taking action against the state of Montana. It's concerning a first-of-its-kind law to ban the app. We'll break down the lawsuit and why some say it's about more than free speech. And hanging up his crown. A tough morning for Lakers fans after getting swept in the Western Conference Finals. And now NBA superstar LeBron James hinting he may be ready to retire. The cryptic comments he made late last night that had the sports world stunned this morning. A lot of people tweeting about that one.
Yeah, he didn't say he's not retiring, so that's got a lot of people wondering what's going on.
A lot of question marks there. We'll get to that, though. We do begin this morning with the debt ceiling standoff and some reports of progress in the latest round of negotiations.
The president and House Speaker met yesterday at the White House. Afterward, both described the talks as productive, a rare moment of agreement in what has been a divisive process so far. There is growing pressure on both men to reach a deal to raise the debt ceiling so the nation can avert a potential default. With a little more than a week until the deadline when the country may be unable to pay its bills, both say they are on the right path to finding a deal.
We still have some disagreements, but I think we may be able to get where we have to go. We both know we have a significant responsibility.
But I think we both agree that we need to change the trajectory, that our debt is too large. And I think at the end of the day, we could find common ground.
Let's bring in NBC News senior White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell and NBC News senior congressional reporter Scott Wong. Good morning to both of you. So, Kelly, let's begin with you. We heard from the speaker there. Both sides used the same words to describe the talk, productive. What else are we hearing from the White House?
Well, that may seem like a very small thing, but it's actually a good sign at this point when time is vanishing quickly. Both sides are saying, so the White House and the Speaker and his team are saying that there is a professionalism, a respect that's going on in these negotiations, and we don't always see that in Washington. So that is a good backdrop for the hard work they're trying to do. Now, that doesn't get us to a deal. It doesn't get us over the finish line. But because of the tone and the exchange and those who were in the room saying that they were able to get to a lot of the core issues and really have a healthy conversation about that, that is making progress. The teams that are working on behalf of the president and the speaker continue to have separate negotiations, keeping this going until late in the evening. The speaker and the president both say they expect to be in regular contact on the phone, meeting again, probably daily until this is resolved. So there are still issues. I asked the president when we were in the Oval Office yesterday, is spending the real issue here? If you can resolve what in Washington they refer to as the top line number, the total amount the government can spend. If you can resolve that, will that fix this? And he said, not that alone. Well, for Speaker McCarthy, that spending number is a central issue. But there are a lot of things here. What will they do in terms of any potential new revenue? That is something that the White House wants. The Speaker is not in favor of that. Cutting spending is an area of common ground, but how deep those cuts and where they should be, that's still a point of disagreement.
So, Scott, this meeting came as the Treasury warned in a new letter to House Speaker McCarthy saying it is, quote, highly likely the U.S. will run out of money as soon as next week if there's no deal. We know things don't happen quickly in Washington, but they need to happen quickly here. So what did Speaker McCarthy say about the likelihood of getting this deal done in time?
You're absolutely right. Nothing happens quickly in Washington. In fact, things are in the House right now, but over in the Senate side, a single senator could delay the entire process even more if they actually do reach a deal. And so Things are very precarious at the moment. What Speaker McCarthy said last night as he returned to the Capitol, spoke to a number of us reporters, he said there still is time enough to do a deal and there's a path to do a deal. He was very careful in the language that he used. He described the meetings, as Kelly mentioned, as productive. Both gentlemen said the word productive a number of times, but he was careful when asked about progress, if they were any closer to reaching a deal than they were this past weekend. He was careful to say that he would not use the word progress. So read into that what you will. One thing that everyone picked up was the optimism shared by Kevin McCarthy and the President of the United States, and the fact that talks are continuing to happen. Here's Kevin McCarthy in his own words.
I think the tone tonight was better than any other time we've had discussion. I felt it was productive because, look, we both know, we've walked through this for a long time, where our differences, we're explaining them, we're giving a give and take of what we think would be best for moving the country forward.
And Kevin McCarthy and the president directed their staffs to continue meeting in the Capitol late into last night. We saw Shalanda Young, the budget director, and her team leaving the Capitol just after 11 o'clock, after about an hour and a half of meetings. So the good sign is talks are continuing and moving forward.
So, I mean, Kelly, these negotiations are happening with the president's approval when it comes to the economy hovering around 33%. That's according to a new AP poll. With the debt ceiling, the stakes are incredibly high. It impacts so many people. It does seem, obviously, these proposed Republican spending cuts, they're the big sticking point. Where are both sides right now after this latest meeting?
Well, the president is acknowledging that there needs to be spending cuts. The disagreement is about at what level. The speaker's been very clear that he believes the U.S. should spend less next year than we have in the past, taking into account, for example, there was certainly an increase in spending related to COVID. When you talk about those poll numbers, the president, when he was in Japan and was asked about this overall environment of the deal, said that he did have some concern that there might be some, as he puts it, MAGA Republicans who would want this to fail because the economy and anything of this magnitude always reflects on the president. He said he does not feel like he should be worthy of blame in this process, but he recognizes presidents do get the blame if the economy is viewed as problematic. And we have talked about if default were to happen, the consequences are quite dire. It is possible recession, job losses, wild swings on the stock market, some very serious problems. And that's why both sides are saying default needs to be off the table. They have to get a solution. And now we'll be watching for every incremental change to see how close are they to getting something done. Joe?
As the clock ticks away. All right, Kelly and Scott, thank you both for kicking us off this hour. We appreciate it. We're following breaking news out of Washington. U.S. Park Police say the driver of a U-Haul truck is facing multiple charges after crashing at a park near the White House late last night. It happened just before 10 p.m. The Secret Service says the truck jumped the curb on the north side of Lafayette Square and hit security barriers. Investigators say they seized a Nazi flag and a backpack, seen here in this picture from the scene. A law enforcement official says the male suspect made threatening statements about the White House at the scene. The official also says that there were no weapons or explosives found inside the truck. But still, the incident had people in the area on edge.
Hopefully it wasn't that. Hopefully it was some form of mistake, but it's kind of wild.
Several hotels in the area were put on lockdown after the crash. No injuries were reported.
The case involving the murders of 4 Idaho college students is going to trial. The suspect, Bryan Kohberger, appeared in court yesterday for the first time since he was indicted by a grand jury last week. When asked to enter a plea, though, Kohberger's attorney told the court that he had chosen to stand silent, leaving the judge to enter a not guilty plea on his behalf. Kohberger is now expected back in court on October 2nd. Former prosecutor and NBC News legal analyst Kristen Gibbons-Fedden joins us now for a closer look at this case. Kristen, good morning to you. So as we mentioned, Kohberger deciding there to just stay totally silent when asked for his plea. What could be the legal strategy there?
You know, by remaining silent, Kohberger's defense may be focusing on building a case centering around his mental state and its impact on his actions. Although Idaho does not allow a formal insanity defense, meaning he can't plead not guilty by reason of insanity, this evidence could still be used to mitigate his culpability. So they may call in a psychiatrist showing that he didn't fully understand the nature of his actions and could not have had the necessary intent needed to prove the crime of first-degree murder.
And Christian, we've also learned more about that alleged murder weapon. Police say one of the items linking Kohberger to the crime scene is that tan leather knife sheath, which court documents say had his DNA on it. A source with the inside knowledge of the investigation says detectives have found evidence in the months leading up to the murders that Kohberger searched for and bought that type of knife and sheath, and that could be quite the fine for prosecutors. How could it, though, affect Kohberger's defense? How do they defend against that?
Well, the defense and the prosecution are essentially working to construct two different narratives. So with this evidence, the prosecutor will aim to demonstrate his intent and premeditation. You know, the evidence linking Kohberger to the purchase of the knife and the sheath directly connects him to the murder weapon, which establishes his access to and possession of the specific tool used in the killing. And that really bolsters the case for premeditation. This is distinct from the vast evidence indicating his presence at the crime scene, which, you know, with the knife and the sheath and showing that he actually purchased it is the premeditation and intent that's vital in proving first-degree murder. And it will be significant if the death penalty is under consideration by the prosecution.
Yeah, that's actually something I wanted to ask about, the death penalty. A lot of people asking about the possibility of that in the case. I know prosecutors now have roughly like 60 days to notify Kohberger and his team if they do plan to seek the death penalty. If they move forward with that, what decisions are they weighing in order to make that call?
You see, as a former prosecutor, I've actually handled a death penalty case, and I can tell you it's not an easy decision to come to. In Idaho, the formal factors that can be considered include the number of victims, evidence of premeditation, which we discussed, and the wishes of the victim's family. Here we have 4 vibrant young victims, potentially significant evidence of not just premeditation, but really intricate planning, and the parents of one of the victims having publicly stated their support for the death penalty for Kohberger if he is convicted. So adding to those formal factors, you know, there is intense amount of political and public pressure on the prosecutor's office. So I do think we're likely to see the prosecutor call for the death penalty in this case.
There's certainly been a lot of scrutiny on this case. All right, more to come. Kristen Gibbons-Fadden, thank you so much.
Now to the presidential race. Republican Senator Tim Scott officially kicked off his campaign yesterday, but can he find a spot in a quickly growing, crowded field of candidates with a clear frontrunner already leading the pack? NBC News Now anchor Tom Yamas sat down with Senator Scott for an exclusive interview.
The Republican race heating up.
I'm the candidate the far left fears the most.
South Carolina Senator Tim Scott emphasizing his own story and leaning into optimism.
You have a very positive message. You quote scripture, and yet the two people leading the GOP field right now, former President Trump and Governor DeSantis, they're not afraid to demonize their opponents. Do you think GOP voters want someone carrying a Bible, or do they want someone driving a bulldozer into the Democrats?
The truth is that what people really want is an optimistic, positive, conservative who has a backbone, but also believes that the best is yet to come. I don't think you have to be a pessimist to be strong.
Scott highlighting his grandfather who picked cotton, then saw his grandson elected to Congress.
My amazing mother.
And his mom, who helped him rise up out of poverty.
In 2021, you said you would support former President Trump if he ran again for re-election. He's running, but now you just announced your candidacy. What changed?
I believe America can do for anyone what she has done for me. I also believe that we have to have a president that persuades, not just within our base, but even on the other side of the aisle. I know I am the candidate that best gets that done.
It sounds like you're trying to draw a contrast there. What will you offer voters that former President Trump will not?
Well, the question is, I'm running for president, period. I plan to win. So the question is, what do the voters want in their president? They want someone who can persuade on the issues that matter the most to them.
Would you ever try to overturn an election you lost?
No.
We pressed Senator Scott on issues like abortion.
As president of the United States, I would sign the most conservative legislation, pro-life legislation that can get to my desk.
Would you be in favor of a federal ban on abortion?
We won't see legislation like that come through Congress if we don't first win the hearts and minds of the American people.
And Scott drawing distinctions with Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor who initially called the war in Ukraine a territorial dispute.
America's national vital interest includes degrading the Russian military. Therefore, our presence in Ukraine is actually essential for us achieving that objective.
But to be clear, you disagree with him on that point. You do not think, you think it's much bigger than a territorial dispute.
Obviously.
And now Scott hits the campaign trail with stops in Iowa and New Hampshire. Senator Scott has raised a significant amount of money, and he hopes to go up with ads in Iowa and New Hampshire. That's where he's headed next, also on the campaign trail. He's going to hit those early primary states as he's now officially a candidate for president. Reporting from Charleston, Tom Yamas, NBC News. Back to you.
All right, Tom, thank you for that exclusive interview.
Well, this morning, former President Donald Trump is set to appear virtually in a New York courtroom.
It is the latest development in the Stormy Daniels hush money criminal case. Trump was charged with 34 felony counts of falsifying business records earlier this year and has pleaded not guilty. For more, we're joined by NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard. So, Vaughn, first of all, what can we expect from today's hearing and today's appearance by the former president?
Yeah, good morning, guys. This is the first hearing since his arraignment on April 4th here, and he will be, we should note, appearing virtually over video. We saw what took place in New York last time around. The judge allowed him to appear virtually. His lawyers will be in person. What the genesis of this was concern by the district attorney's office that Donald Trump, who has a history of going on the attack against witnesses, against prosecutors, but also their concern in this particular case was revealing evidence. You know, in a trial, there is discovery where the prosecutors turn over evidence that they intend to use against the defendant in the trial. But the concern from the prosecutors was that they do not want that to get out publicly, and Donald Trump has a history of saying and revealing pretty much anything, and they want, in order to have a fair trial, to that have not be revealed. And so what the judge did was this protective order that keeps Donald Trump from revealing that evidence that will be used in trial against him.
And all this comes as the E. Jean Carroll, we just heard that decision a couple weeks ago, now seeking additional damages for what the former president said on CNN just after that happened. Let's take a listen and talk on the other side.
This woman, I don't know her. I never met her. I have no idea who she is. This is a fake story, made up story. I have no idea who the hell. She's a whack job.
Now, those comments came just 2 days after the former president was found liable for sexually abusing Ms. Carroll. What is going on with this case, and what's the response to it?
Right, a lot came out of that CNN town hall because it was actually the judge in that order for the hush money payment case made his ruling to keep Donald Trump revealing from that evidence the day after the town hall because he said he can't get a fair shake in New York. And much like what you heard in those comments, calling E. Jean Carroll a whack job and completely undercutting her, saying he doesn't know her. The exact defamation that the trial jury found that he was liable for the first go around. She amended this now and says he is continuing to defame her, now asking for $10 million in punitive damages, she says, as a way to deter him from making more defamatory statements in the future. But that is where you have seen Donald Trump, ask these questions on the campaign trail, trying to undercut the very stories of these individuals.
We know Trump is already appealing the $5 million verdict. How is he responding to this latest development over the defamation?
Right. His lawyer last night to NBC News said that this was an 11th hour attempt that shows the clear motivations of E. Jean Carroll, suggesting that it is money that she is seeking. Of course, E. Jean Carroll was found by the trial of 9 peers to have been not only sexually abused by Donald Trump, but also defamed. That is what a jury said here. And so now what she is seeking is, yet again, because he continues, she says, to defame him on the exact same merits that she won her first verdict, she wants to go to court again to keep him from continuing to defame her. And as she says, other women who have made allegations against him in the past.
All right, Vaughn Hilliard, thanks for your reporting. Appreciate it.
All right, we're tracking some southern showers and storms this morning. Let's get a check on your Morning News Now weather.
Meteorologist Michelle Grossman joins us. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Hey there, guys. Great to see you. And yeah, we're going to see a day a lot like yesterday where we had those showers and storms in the southern plains, also portions of the southeast, 2 separate storm systems bringing that rain. And it's going to be heavy at times. We could see some flooding in both those areas. And then in particular in the southern plains, we could see some strong to severe storms later on this afternoon to these evening hours. So radar showing us that rain is falling. And here is the setup. We have 2 separate systems. One is a cold front that's kind of parked over the state of Florida, bringing rain into Florida, Georgia, also Alabama. It's going to soak Florida today, also tomorrow, and that's why we're particularly concerned about the risk for flooding. And then in portions of Oklahoma and Texas, especially the panhandle of Texas, we're looking at the chance for severe storms later on tonight. That's going to bring the chance of some really large hail, baseball-sized hail, and also some gusty winds gusting over 60 miles per hour. So much like yesterday, we're going to see that today, and we're going to see it again tomorrow. Local downpours in parts of Florida once again, and scattered storms flaring up in the southern plains, especially in the state of Texas, the panhandle of Texas. Flood watch is in effect in parts of Alabama, Georgia, also the panhandle of Florida. So places like Camilla, Difton, Valdosta, Tallahassee, we're looking at the chance for some rivers, creeks, and streams flooding, and also some street flooding as we have a lot of rain falling, and we could see 1 to 2 inches per hour. We could see up to 6 inches in some spots. Rainfall amounts, you see that cluster there in parts of the southern plains, and then a lot of rain throughout Florida once again. Those brighter colors showing us where we're expecting the heaviest amounts of rain, anywhere from 3 even up to 6 inches of rain in some spots. So we're going to watch that closely as we go throughout today. Those are the 2 big weather stories, but we're looking at the chance for severe storms from Amarillo to Lubbock, also San Angelo. Where you see that yellow shading, that's where we're expecting the likelihood for some of those storms. Again, really large hail, so that causes damage on its own. Winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour and some really heavy rainfall. Back to you both.
All right, we know you'll keep an eye on that. Michelle, thank you so much. Welcome back. It has been 8 months since Hurricane Ian devastated communities throughout Florida. Many homeowners are still waiting to get money from their insurance companies so they can rebuild.
And all of this as we're just weeks away from the start of the Atlantic hurricane season. NBC Nightly News anchor Lester Holt spoke with people in Fort Myers Beach about the struggles they're facing with their insurance claims.
This was our master bedroom.
What was once the Clifford family's home is now an unlivable maze of studs.
This home is uninhabitable right now.
Absolutely.
For how long?
Until we can fix it.
When Ian tore through Florida last September, they had just relocated from New Jersey and were days away from moving into their new home. They say the roof was damaged, the floors and ceilings soaked. But the Cliffords thought they were relatively lucky. Then they say 9-year-old Sheila started getting sick.
When was the moment you realized you couldn't live here anymore?
The moment they told me that there was mold in my daughter's rooms and it wasn't safe for them to stay there anymore.
An adjuster the Cliffords hired estimates there's more than $400,000 worth of damage. They didn't have flood insurance, and their homeowner's insurance has only covered the damage to the roof.
They sent a check for, I think, after a deductible, about $4,800.
Is $4,800 going to cut it?
No.
Close?
Not at all.
The company sent a letter saying the damage is not covered because it could have occurred from wind-driven rain or elevated flood levels. The Cliffords are now suing the insurance company, which told NBC News they were unable to comment further due to the ongoing litigation.
How would you rank the insurance response to this storm?
Absolutely garbage.
Terrible.
8 months after Hurricane Ian, destruction is still a common sight here. Many homeowners blame insurance companies, saying payouts have been slow and insufficient. And now Florida's Department of Financial Services is investigating possible fraud after several independent adjusters came forward alleging their work had been manipulated to pay policyholders less.
What made you want to come forward and discuss this?
The fact that it was just wrong as wrong can be. There's no doors or windows left.
When a catastrophic storm hits, adjusters like Mark Vinson and Jordan Lee are hired by companies called third-party administrators, or TPAs, to help insurance companies get through the mountains of claims. Their job is to go to homes and estimate property damage. The companies can make revisions to those reports, but the adjusters say major changes were made without their collaboration or consent.
44 of the 46 claims that I turned into the firm that I was working for, they manipulated 44 of them.
What kind of things were different than when you signed off?
There were missing pictures, and the dollar amount was significantly reduced from what I had originally written for.
Would you pick up the phone and challenge them?
I did. They gave me no basis as to why they were making those changes.
NBC News has reviewed several of the reports they submitted and the final copies. In many cases, the losses were reduced by tens of thousands of dollars.
I have one that I wrote for $239,000, and the altered estimate was $3,476. It's completely wrecked.
The final report still lists the adjusters' names.
Has your work been wholly misrepresented?
Very much so. You know, you come out to a Category 5 hurricane home, the roof, you see damage, and then I write an estimate for that damage. By the time it gets back to the policyholder, that roof is not on that estimate at all. I mean, what do you do?
The insurance company associated with Vinson's work says it takes these kinds of allegations very seriously, adding TPAs internally review and make correct adjustments before they are presented to companies for a coverage determination. The TPA and insurance company Lee worked for have not responded to NBC News' request for comment.
Have you seen these altered estimates in other disasters?
Yes, we have.
Doug Quinn founded the nonprofit American Policyholder Association after his home was destroyed in Superstorm Sandy.
These are people that did the right thing. They put a safety net in place in case something like this happens. And when that safety net fails them, what they go through is devastating.
As for the Cliffords, they say they have no idea when they'll be able to return home.
Are you in limbo?
Kind of just keep reiterating to myself that there's got to be light at the end of the tunnel.
All right, thanks to Lester Holt for that report. Meanwhile, from insurance woes to signs of hope.
Yeah, when Lester visited Fort Myers Beach and spoke with Hurricane Ian survivors about discovering the strength within themselves, he found people in their community moving on after that devastating storm.
It's been 8 months since Hurricane Ian barreled ashore, but for some in Fort Myers Beach, it looks and feels like yesterday.
It was honestly terrifying. A lot of people still without power. I met quite a few that don't have water.
The Beach Baptist Church filling what even today is still an urgent need.
We're feeding about 2,800 mouths per month.
There are signs of progress, rebuilding, businesses slowly returning. Even weekend beachgoers are back. Recovery is measured in small steps, volunteers cleaning up, posting street signs.
They call it the beach vibe coming back.
But the personal toll is hard to measure. Some left after the storm. Others chose to stay.
How are you, man? It's great to see you. How you been?
I first met fisherman and Coast Guard veteran Matthew Simonson the day after Hurricane Ian hit.
It's like a tsunami.
Telling me about his harrowing story of survival, clinging to a boat as it was hurled onto land atop the storm surge.
We were actually eye level. We were taking out some of these top wires.
We found him still living here, doing marine salvage.
What made you stick it out?
There's so much work to be done here still.
That sense of purpose and hope extends even to the very youngest here.
We were stronger than we knew.
The children of Fort Myers Beach Elementary School were forced to relocate to another school when theirs was destroyed.
How did you do during the storm?
I feel like I did pretty good.
Their story shared in a song that deeply resonates on this beach and across this battered but remarkably strong community.
We know we can take whatever comes our way.
What gives you that strength?
Because after the storm, I felt like I lost everything, but I realized I still had my friends and family.
Our thanks to Lester Holt for sharing that story. The Atlantic hurricane season officially begins June 1st and will run through the end of November.
All right, to international headlines now, starting with new developments in the war in Ukraine.
NBC's Claudia Lavanga joins us from Rome with that and other world headlines. Claudia, good morning.
Good morning, guys. The governor of the Russian Belgorod region said that a group of Ukrainian saboteurs crossed the border into Russia and were being repelled. Now, Ukraine denies the cross-border incursion and said that two armed Russian opposition groups called the Liberty of Russia Legion and the Russian Volunteer Corps were responsible for the attack. The Russian governor said that at least 8 people had been wounded and 3 houses and a state building were damaged. Now let's go to Brazil, where a 6-month animal health emergency has been declared after bird flu was found in several wild birds. The virus, called H5N1, is highly infectious and has so far been found in 7 birds in the state of Espírito Santo and 1 case in Rio de Janeiro state. Now the government is now rushing to stop the infection in order to also protect its economy, as Brazil is the world's largest exporter of chicken meat. And take a look at this delicious frozen dessert. Looks tasty, right? But its price will also give you chills. It's called Byakuya White Night in Japanese, and 1 serving of it will cost you a whopping $6,400, making it, unsurprisingly, the most expensive ice cream in the world. Now it's made with the best white truffle from Italy and is topped off by an edible gold leaf. Those who tasted it described it as rich in taste and texture, even though, guys, I'm pretty sure that you have to be rich yourself to be able to afford a taste of that.
Yeah, no kidding. Everything's rich to them.
Yeah, no kidding. And edible gold leaf, by the way, not delicious, Claudio. I don't know why they do that. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
We're back now with our weekly mental health check-in. More and more students are refusing to go to school. We have more on why they may be suffering from school avoidance.
Yeah, it's also something we're going to be talking about, a term you're seeing in the headlines and probably a lot on social media lately, body dysmorphia. We're breaking down what you need to know about that disorder.
Let's bring in licensed marriage and family therapist, Dr. George James, for more on these headlines. Doctor, good to have you with us. So let's start with this school avoidance topic. USA Today released an investigation looking at the growing number of kids who've been avoiding school, finding that an estimated 5 to 28% will avoid school at some point in their life. So walk us through what causes this, what are the signs parents should be looking out for, and can it be treated?
Good morning. Many students actually struggle with going to school. They feel some level of anxiety. And this is a profound aspect of this, where the anxiety is so overwhelming that they don't want to go to school, that they don't want to be there. They actually have panic attacks on the way. They can feel helpless. They can be anxious. And this actually not only affects the students, but also families. So you want to look out to how is your student feeling going to school? What are they dealing with? You want to help them not avoid, but give them strategies, and most of all, seek help and support, because it's very overwhelming for everybody in this situation.
And Doctor, wanted to ask about body dysmorphia. Several celebrities have come forward saying that they struggle with it on a daily basis. Megan Fox recently came forward talking about that. So what should we know about body dysmorphia and mental health, and how can people try to address that issue?
The thing with body dysmorphia is that most people from the outside looking at a person will say, oh, they look amazing or beautiful, or they're great, they're attractive. But internally, the person finds or sees a flaw within themselves. And that's what they now have a lot of stress and can be overwhelmed by. And that stress becomes something that they focus on and deliberate over, and it becomes something that can take over their entire life, even if they're a celebrity. And so they can also get some support and help, because it could lead to other mental health challenges. The biggest thing is don't minimize what they're experiencing, but help them and support them and allow them to hopefully get the help that they need by seeking a therapist or counselor to deal with it.
A moment ago, we talked about anxiety. So more people are turning to anxiety rings as a way to cope with stress. Are these small trinkets actually helpful in dealing with anxiety symptoms?
You know, in everything we talked about this morning, anxiety is a part of it. And so finding the strategy that helps you is important. For some folks, it might be the anxiety ring. It's a way to kind of distract in a healthy way. But the biggest part of anxiety is that you don't want to distract so much that you don't find a way to push through or find a way to deal with whatever it is causing that anxiety. So if you have the ring, that might be helpful and that might get you through the moment. But you want to find a strategy that allows you to push through the bigger, larger situation. So it might work for now, like fidget spinners in the past, but you really want to come up with coping strategies, things that help you to be in the moment, to push through, and that you might need some help and support. Don't do it by yourself.
Do you find there's one strategy that's the absolute best that can help people who are dealing with anxiety, perhaps right in the short term?
Yeah, I think breathing is really helpful, and also what we say in our own minds. Sometimes it's, I can do this, or I did this before, or I know that I can overcome this particular challenge, whatever it might be. Those things sometimes give us enough to kind of move through the moment, and then that anxiety dissipates, and then we have now confidence that we were able to overcome that particular challenge.
Breathing and positive self-talk can actually go quite far. All right, Dr. George James, thanks so much.
Welcome back. This morning, a legal tit for tat over TikTok. The popular social media app is now suing the state of Montana over a law just signed by the governor banning it from operating in the state.
Yeah, the ban is set to go into effect on January 1st of next year, and it's already raising concerns about how exactly it would even be enforced. Angela Sinadella is an attorney and legal analyst. She joins us now to explain more on this. Good morning, Angela. Thanks for being here. So TikTok is saying this is about more than free speech, and it might actually violate federal laws in other areas. What is the counter argument there?
The counter argument. Well, right now, TikTok is saying that not only is there a First Amendment violation, but there's also a violation of the Commerce Clause, saying that speech is now being banned from traveling across state lines from a city or state like New York and California to Montana. Now, the counter argument that the government would have is that, look, as the state of Montana, they have purview, they have ability to limit things based on what's best for their own constituents. Every state has a lot of authority based on their state constitution and on the separation between state and federal powers. So that's what the states are arguing.
Looking at the federal government, we've already seen it ban TikTok on government devices, those types of things. We've seen universities do the same thing, but those are different from this Montana ban, right?
That's exactly right. So different entities have different authority, different powers to limit things like apps or speech based off of competing concerns. So schools, that's usually about harmful content. It's not even necessarily about the Chinese element for schools. It's that there's TikTok challenges where people are harming themselves. Governments also have ability on government devices to compete with national security or state security concerns. So the bar is higher based on what entity is limiting. Now, when we're talking about private citizens, though, that bar is totally different.
And this isn't the only lawsuit that they're facing about this. I know several creators have joined in lawsuits as well. What are they arguing?
Yes, so 5 users in Montana actually sued the state of Montana before TikTok presented this lawsuit. And the arguments are largely the same, with the exception of these TikTok users saying that they are banning their liberty, their property. They're taking away their followers, their revenue, their ability to make money, their liberty to choose their own careers. And these are big arguments.
Is this law even enforceable? I mean, someone can download the app in another state, and then what happens?
Yes, that's exactly it. There's VPNs. There's all sorts of ways people can get around this. And also, the incentives are not necessarily aligned. So with this law, only TikTok, Google, and Apple would be fined. So a user who downloads it and goes around the way wouldn't actually be fined.
Does this just feel like it's inevitably got to head to the Supreme Court?
Yes, I'm sure you saw that with all of these constitutional issues that were raised from the very beginning. So yes, that's where we will see this end up.
All right.
And Angela, you popped up on my FYP on TikTok yesterday. You are a prolific user, so you were the one to talk to for this. Thanks so much for your insights.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, more financial news now. Let's talk more about TikTok, the latest move from TikTok to help alleviate those national security concerns about the app.
TikTok is everywhere, and so is CNBC's Silvana Henao joining us to talk about this and other news. Good morning, Silvana.
Stephen, Joe, good morning to you. Yes, so TikTok will soon give Oracle full access to its source code, algorithm, and content moderation material. This is as part of efforts to ease national security concerns about the app. And Bloomberg reports that Oracle will also monitor the gateways where data comes in and out of the servers hosting information from TikTok's U.S. users. TikTok has introduced a plan to alleviate criticism from lawmakers who worry its ownership by a Chinese company opens it up to influence or data collection by the Chinese government. Paramount Plus will officially merge with Showtime on June 27th, and subscribers can expect a price hike. The combo was announced earlier this year, and Showtime customers will get to watch Paramount content and vice versa. Now, the price for the ad-free plan will go up by $2 to $11.99 a month. Now, if you don't watch Showtime, you'll pay $5.99 a month. That's $1 more than the current price. And the move coming as HBO Max gets rebranded as Max today, adding content from Discovery Plus. Pasta prices are surging in Italy, so much so that the government held an emergency meeting earlier this month to discuss the crisis. Now, prices rose more than 16% in April. That's double the rate of inflation. Pasta dishes in restaurants have risen 6% across the board. The increase is mostly due to producers selling their pasta stocks, which were made when raw material costs such as wheat and energy were much higher. Some producers are calling for a price cap, while others say there should be a strike against buying the country's beloved staple, guys. No wonder my bolognese was more expensive when I got it last time.
Okay, I guess we're going to have to learn to make our own pasta.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, that sounds hard.
That sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, we'll pass on that. Italians take their pasta very seriously, though. That makes sense. All right, Silvana, thanks so much.
You got
Welcome back. This morning, Denver Nuggets fans are celebrating their team going to the NBA Finals for the first time in franchise history after completing a sweep of LeBron James and the Lakers.
Big party in Denver right now. But after last night's disappointing loss, it was LeBron James who perhaps made the biggest headlines, fueling rumors that he may have played his final game. NBC News national correspondent Miguel Almaguer is in L.A. with more on that. Miguel, good morning.
Hey guys, good morning. LeBron James has seemingly done it all. He was the #1 draft pick, a 4-time NBA champion, a 4-time NBA MVP, a 19-time All-Star, and arguably the best player to ever play the game. But now, after an incredible career for a man who's seemingly never aged, enough may be enough.
Last night, the top-seeded Denver Nuggets reaching the team's first NBA Finals, sweeping the Los Angeles Lakers, despite a brilliant performance from LeBron James, who scored 40 points. After the game, the Lakers legend reflecting on the season, appearing to leave open the possibility he may have played his final NBA game.
We'll see what happens going forward, but I don't know. I got a lot to think about, to be honest.
ESPN also reporting that after the game, James said he plans to consider retirement in the offseason. Earlier this year, the 38-year-old became the NBA's all-time leading scorer in a career that saw him live up to the incredible hype to become one of the best ever to play the game. One of his final goals of his iconic career, to play alongside his son Bronny in the NBA.
I'm a proud father.
But the younger James, who recently committed to playing college hoops at USC, would not be able to enter the league until the 2024-2025 season, which may be a long way off for the aging superstar.
Just for me personally, going forward with the game of basketball, got a lot to think about.
James will have plenty of time to make a decision about his future in the offseason, but when moving to Los Angeles, it was clear he had his sights on several projects outside of basketball. That includes television and film opportunities. If his career is over, and that's a huge if, James certainly seems poised for a new chapter after retirement, guys.
All right, Miguel, I know you're a big basketball fan. What do you think are the odds that he's going to retire?
My guess is he's not going to do it. You know, usually these superstars like to have a final year, a big rollout, going around to all of the arenas where they used to play, having that farewell tour of sorts. But, you know, it was a disappointing and a devastating loss for the Lakers, who were swept by the Nuggets. So I think James will come back. That's just my hunch, Joe. No promises on that either.
All right, we'll see. Miguel, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You bet.
That does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
But your news continues right now. Good Tuesday morning. Thanks for being here. I'm Stephen Romo, in for Savannah Sellers.
And I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, breaking news out of Washington: White House scare. Authorities say a U-Haul truck crashed into a security barrier near the White House overnight. The driver of that truck was arrested and now faces multiple charges, including a serious one about threats against the president. The latest developments just ahead, including what we know about a possible motive. Also, face-to-face progress reportedly made in a high-stakes meeting to avoid a debt default. President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy met at the White House. While no firm deal has been announced just yet, both agreed the talks were productive.
I think the tone tonight was better than any other time we've had discussions.
The lingering sticking points from both sides as that June 1st default deadline approaches. Silence. A stoic suspect in an Idaho courtroom yesterday, not saying a word. Dramatic moments as the judge then entered multiple not guilty pleas for Bryan Kohberger. He's the man accused of killing 4 Idaho college students late last year. The families of those students were in the room with Kohberger. Their reactions to the proceedings and the next steps in this high-profile case. And a new warning from the Surgeon General this morning, why he's now sounding the alarm on social media use among teens and younger children, the potential risks your kids could be facing, and what parents should know. Important warning coming up. We'll bring that to you and get to all that. But first, let's start with the breaking news we've been following out of Washington. U.S. Park Police say the driver of a U-Haul truck is now facing multiple charges after crashing at a park that was near the White House.
Yeah, it happened late last night, and we're getting new details about items that authorities say they found there at the scene. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles has the latest.
And authorities believe the man driving that U-Haul truck that crashed into this barricade behind me did so intentionally. And a law enforcement official telling NBC News that he was making threatening statements against the White House at the scene.
This morning, the man who crashed a U-Haul truck into barriers near the White House is accused of making threats to the president or vice president. U.S. Park Police saying the man was arrested overnight, and the charges associated with the incident include assault with a dangerous weapon, reckless driving, and threatening to kill, kidnap, or inflict harm on a president, vice president, or family member. This video posted overnight showing a U-Haul truck slamming into barriers at Lafayette Square, a block away from the White House. Investigators removing a flag with a swastika from the scene. Officials say shortly before 10 p.m. Monday, officers with the Secret Service Uniform Division detained the driver after the collision. This comes as the White House has beefed up security measures after a number of security breaches in Washington in recent years, including the January 6 riots at the Capitol.
And it doesn't appear that the president, vice president, or the first family were in any danger at any point, and no Secret Service personnel or White House officials were injured in this incident. The suspect was quickly detained.
All right, Ryan, thank you.
Staying in Washington, there are signs of possible progress in the negotiations to avoid a debt ceiling default. President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy met again at the White House yesterday. Both described that meeting as productive, but still have not reached a deal. Without an agreement, the U.S. could potentially default on its debt for the first time ever as soon as next week. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Kristen Welker joins us now with the latest. Kristen, good morning.
Hi, Joe. Good morning to you. Talks really are down to the wire. A source familiar with the negotiations telling me overnight there is still no deal in sight. There are still a lot of sticking points. Now, look, just as a reminder, the debt limit is like the nation's credit card bill. It's debt that the country already owes. The one encouraging sign, Joe, is that both sides are talking and talking and talking around the clock. But the question is, will it be enough to avoid a potential economic disaster?
I'm going home.
Overnight, negotiators leaving the Capitol after urgent talks to raise the debt limit, showing signs of progress, but still no deal. It comes after a high-stakes Oval Office meeting earlier Monday between President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, both leaders describing the discussion as productive. Speaker McCarthy expressing optimism moments after the talks wrapped.
I think the tone tonight was better than any other time we've had discussions. I believe we can get it done.
In a statement after the meeting, President Biden saying, while there are areas of disagreement, the Speaker and I and our staffs will continue to discuss the path forward. The two sides have found some common ground, agreeing to recoup unspent COVID funds, which could save an estimated $30 billion, according to the White House. But key sticking points remain. Republicans are calling for deep spending cuts, which Democrats oppose, saying it could hurt programs like health care and education. Republicans also want new work requirements for food and housing assistance, but Democrats say that would punish poorer communities. The president wants to close tax loopholes for the wealthy, but Republicans say that's a non-starter.
So the problem is not revenue, the problem is spending.
I think revenue matters.
Adding urgency, in a new letter to Congress Monday, the Treasury Secretary forcefully reiterating the country's ability to borrow is highly likely to run out as early as June 1st. If the nation defaults or fails to pay the bills it's already spent, it could trigger an economic crisis, from a plummeting stock market, widespread job losses, and even a recession. Government payments would also be delayed for critical programs like food stamps, Social Security, and even benefits for Gold Star military families. Now, remember, once a deal is reached, it still has to go through the full House and the Senate. That takes time, especially in a deeply divided Congress. Now, look, the president has not ruled out this other option that he has, which would essentially allow him to take action to raise the debt limit all on his own. But experts have warned that could spark a drawn-out legal battle and would come with economic challenges of its own, Joe.
All right, Kristen, thank you so much.
Well, the trial date is set for the man accused of killing 4 Idaho college students. Now, prosecutors are deciding whether or not they'll seek the death penalty in this case. NBC News correspondent Aaron McLaughlin joins us now from Moscow, Idaho, with the latest on this. Aaron.
Hey, Stephen. Well, it was an emotional court hearing for the families of the victims. Some were in tears as Bryan Kohberger stood silent when asked to enter a plea.
Bryan Kohberger appearing before an Idaho District Court judge, saying little but taking one important step closer to trial.
Counts 2, 3, 4, and 5, murder in the first degree. Maximum penalties, life in prison or the death penalty.
4 murder charges for Kohberger, accused of stabbing these University of Idaho students to death 6 months ago. Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin.
Do you understand the charge in count 3, murder in the first degree? Yes. Do you understand the maximum penalty? Yes.
But to the charges, he said nothing.
We will be standing silent. Okay, because Mr. Kohberger is standing silent, I'm going to enter not guilty pleas.
Kohberger's legal team signaling they're prepared to go to trial less than 6 months from now in October. Before then, another deadline. Prosecutors have 60 days to decide whether they'll seek the death penalty against Kohberger. Shannon Gray is representing the family of victim Kaylee Gonsalves.
The Gonsalves family, would like the death penalty.
Kaylee's family was in the courtroom Monday, including her sister and newborn niece, named after Kaylee and her best friend Maddie. Meanwhile, New Dateline reporting on suspicions arising within Bryan Kohberger's own family over the holidays. Just before his arrest, a source with inside knowledge of the investigation saying that one of Kohberger's sisters noticed that he'd been wearing latex gloves, quite loudly pointing out that he'd been living just miles from the murder scene and driving the same car authorities were looking for. The Dateline source saying several family members even went out to search Kohberger's white Elantra, finding nothing. An attorney close to the Kohberger family telling Dateline they'd have no comment on the report. Days later, he'd be behind bars, now gearing up for the trial of his life.
This morning, Bryan Kohberger is all alone in a cell in the jail attached to the small courthouse behind me as the prosecution weighs the death penalty. Guys.
All right, Aaron, thank you.
NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos joins us now for more on all this. So the trial set for October. Prosecutors have 60 days or so to notify Kohberger if they're going to seek the death penalty at all. What happens in the months leading up to all this?
60 days, that's a strategy decision. Do they charge him with the death penalty and hope maybe they can get him to enter a plea? Because that's really what it's all about, in my view. Yes, it's about justice for the families. But, the 60-day death penalty notice, it's not nearly as interesting or compelling as the other deadline, the 6-month speedy trial deadline that Kohberger did not waive. As a defendant, sometimes you want to waive that speedy trial. That speedy trial right means the state has to bring the case within 6 months or it gets dismissed, with a big asterisk and a footnote. And I say that because there are so many exceptions to that speedy trial right. For example, if the defense says, hey, we're filing a motion or we need more time to find a witness, that time will not be countable against the state. I've run into this problem all the time in my own cases. 6 months doesn't always mean 6 months. But strategically, this is a major decision. Kohberger is essentially saying to the state, put up or shut up. I am going to make you bring this case within 6 months because I'm not so sure you're ready. This is not like a wide-ranging federal investigation where the DOJ spends years and years investigating and they're trial ready when they go to the indictment. Murder is a reactive crime. The state reacted to it. They have to hurry to get their evidence together. It's the right defensive call strategically.
I have to ask about what Aaron was just reporting about, that Dateline reporting, talking about some suspicions within Kohberger's own family, going out to look in his car. What do you make of that? What does that do to the defense?
That's going to be a big problem for the defense. If your own family ends up providing evidence to the state that is used against you. And that's, again, going back to speedy trial, that's another reason that Kohberger wants this case to move as quickly as possible. The defense's entire strategy, you can already see it now. They're probably not going to come up with an alternate killer theory. They're probably not going to do anything other than stand at the podium and say the state has not met its burden. And look what happens. Every day that passes, more evidence is bubbling up, like the Kohberger family. So if you're the defense, get this case to trial sooner rather than later, because in a year or two, the state might find even something more damaging that nobody even knows about yet.
So many details about this case remain limited. That's because the judge issued a gag order on officials, on the victims' families. In a case like this that is so high profile, how common is that?
These high-profile cases on this level are not common to begin with. Gag orders are really very rare. Judges hate issuing them because they walk the line between a violation of the First Amendment and the interest in keeping things about the case confidential. But again, courts are supposed to be open. So look, judges do not like issuing gag orders. This judge and any court that does in a high-profile case is not only going to see a fight maybe from the defendant, but a fight from media organizations that immediately file lawsuits, as you two both know very well, to compel the court to release this information.
And, of course, media outlets are challenging this. So are some of the victims' families, too. So what could happen next here as far as trying to get the gag order removed and more information released? How likely is it?
There's going to be a hearing. It really could go either way, but it may even be modified to allow certain information out because, you don't know all the different fact situations that the media may want to disclose or may get access to information. Maybe the judge releases certain things and not others. The judge is going to tailor it to this particular case, keeping in mind that the judge has to be mindful that he cannot allow this to become a circus-like atmosphere. Those are the magic words that the Supreme Court announced maybe half a century ago that allow for the very rare remedy. Very rare, maybe by so rare you could say it isn't even a right, barely, but the right to a fair trial may be infringed upon if the pretrial publicity reaches such a frenzy that it is a circus-like atmosphere. But it's so rare to be maybe not even a right at all.
Do you think we're there yet?
No, we're not, because we've had so many of those cases and asked that same question in the last few years, and it almost never happens.
And Denny, there was so much talk yesterday about the Kohberger not entering a plea on his own, the judge having to do that for him, especially with his background in criminology. What is the thinking there? As being an attorney, what do you make of that?
I want an embargo on everybody saying that because Kohberger has a few years studying criminology, that he's some master joker criminal that knows how to commit crimes in a way that other people don't. We don't even know if that's his area of study. Criminology could just mean surveys of prisoners to find if they come from broken homes. It doesn't mean he's a master criminal, no more than it means that a criminal defense attorney like me could be a master criminal. I would probably be a horrible criminal, even though I am immersed in crime and bad decisions of crime. By the way, criminals are not even good at being criminals. That's why we have criminal court. They make bad decisions. That's why they hire lawyers in the first place. So I don't know that there's any more strategy than he's sitting in the four walls of his jail all day, and that does weird things to people. Maybe he thinks it's some symbolic gesture. Maybe he's defying the authority of the court. Who knows? I've had clients, and all defense attorneys have had clients that make these kind of odd symbolic decisions. It may mean nothing, but now here we all are interested in it. So maybe that's the effect Kohberger always wanted.
And the idea of being a mastermind and possible suspicion in his own family also comes into question as well. All right.
Oh, yes.
Balls, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now to the presidential race. An NBC News exclusive first interview with the newest Republican candidate, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott. NBC News Now anchor Tom Yamas sat down with the senator for a wide-ranging conversation.
Senator Tim Scott is ready to do something that is radical in modern politics: stay positive. Poll numbers show he is a long-shot candidate, but he has the money to stay competitive, and now also apparently the blessing of former President Trump. Who knows, as the field grows, so do his prospects, because he keeps his base and those other votes get fractured.
Hello, South Carolina!
This morning, the Republican primary field expanding with a dose of optimism.
I'm living proof that America is the land of opportunity.
With Senator Tim Scott announcing his presidential run.
Former President Trump and Governor DeSantis, they're not afraid to demonize their opponents. So my question to you is, do you think GOP voters want someone carrying a Bible, or do they want someone driving a bulldozer into the Democrats?
So the truth is that what people really want is an optimistic, positive, conservative who has a backbone, but also believes that the best is yet to come.
In a rare move, Mr. Trump posting praise for an opponent, wishing Scott luck, while taking a shot at Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, writing on social media, "Tim is a big step up from Ron DeSanctimonious, who is totally unelectable."
It doesn't sound like former President Trump is worried about you.
So the truth of the matter is that I do think that the power of persuasion is necessary for the next president.
I'm listening to you. You're saying you're a better deal maker than President Trump, former President Trump?
What I'm saying is that I look forward to persuading the American people, right and left, within my base and on the far side, to making sure that we move this country forward using common sense, finding common ground.
Would you ever try to overturn an election you lost?
No.
What do you think about President Trump's behavior after the 2020 election into January 6th?
We can do two things here. We can have a conversation about President Trump, or we can have a conversation about my vision for the future. I'm going to stay on my future, my vision for the future for a couple of reasons.
It was a historical moment. I think voters deserve to know.
Listen, actually, I was actually in there, so I know exactly how historic it was. But what I will say is simply this, that the future that America is focusing on is what I'm going to provide.
And as the field is expected to grow, with DeSantis likely announcing this week, Scott also taking a shot at the Florida governor, seeming to question his conservative credentials.
But how are you different from Governor Ron DeSantis, you think?
Having an optimistic, positive message that is actually anchored in conservatism and in optimism matters a lot.
So if Senator Tim Scott wins it all, he'll join a very rare club that includes James Buchanan and Grover Cleveland, candidates who entered the White House as bachelors. So I asked him if there was a woman in his life, if he had time to date on the campaign trail. Here's what he told me. He said, "There's always time for a great relationship with a wonderful woman, and I thank God that that is happening. So I'll leave it there." And so will I, but it sounds like something may be cooking for Senator Tim Scott. Back to you.
All right, Tom, thanks for that exclusive interview.
All right, time now for weather and above average temperatures. So I guess the weather's cooking. Northern Plains to the upper Midwest.
Yeah, there we go. Joining us now to talk about that cooking, meteorologist Michelle Grossman. Hey, Michelle.
Hey there, guys. Great to see you. Yeah, we are cooking in the Northern Plains. We're looking at temperatures well above normal for this time of year, anywhere from 10, even 20 degrees above what is average for this time of year. So that warmth is extending to the Northern Plains, the upper Midwest, and we're going to see that sliding east over the next several days. That's one big weather story today. Then we have two others. We have two spots where we're going to see the chance for some really heavy rainfall that could lead to some flooding, even some flash flooding in spots. So the first spot would be portions of the southeast along the panhandle of Florida into Alabama, also Georgia. We're going to see very slow-moving storms that are holding a lot of moisture, really summer-like storms. So we're looking at the chance for some flooding there. We're going to see the rivers and creeks and streams rise a bit too. And then in the southern plains, expecting some heavy rain there. Along with that, with the daytime heating, by this afternoon into the evening hours, we're looking for the chance for severe storms. Much like yesterday, it's sort of going to be a repeat performance where we could see storms with really large hail, even baseball-sized hail, some heavy downpours, damaging winds gusting over 60 miles per hour. The good news, once again, is that tornado threat is low. Now, the Intermountain West, you're going to see some chances for flash flooding as well. You can see some green on the map there in portions of the Rockies and the Intermountain West. This is what satellite and radar looks like right now. We do have the rain falling in the Intermountain West, the Southern Plains, the Southeast, and that's what we expect to continue as we go throughout this Tuesday. And really, we're going to see a lot of spots seeing that same scenario on Wednesday as well. Here's a setup. First, we have the Southeast. We have a front that's sort of parked over the area. Along that front, we're going to see the chance for some really heavy rainfall. We're going to see some showers and storms. And then in the Southern Plains, you notice those colors showing up. That's brighter colors showing us where we could see some heavy rainfall. Looking for the chance for severe storms in parts of West Texas, so the panhandle of Texas. And then we're going to do it once again tomorrow. Local downpours in parts of Florida once again. That's going to add to the flooding risk, the flash flooding risk. So if you're out and about in Florida today, Georgia, Alabama, you could see some ponding on the roadways. Just be careful as you head out today. Scattered storms flaring up in the Southern Plains once again after we get that daytime heating going tomorrow as well. We do have a flood watch that goes today through tonight, early tonight, for the rivers, the creeks, the streams, where we could see some flooding, but also on those low-lying areas, the roadways. So that's why it's particularly dangerous if you're out and about and get caught up in some of those heavy downpours. So Panama City, also Tallahassee, Valdosta, you could see some of those storms flaring up as we head throughout the later part of this Tuesday. Rainfall amounts, we're talking anywhere from 1 to 3 inches, but look at all those colors in Florida. That's showing us some really heavy rainfalls expected. We got a lot of rain rainfall yesterday, so we're adding on to some really saturated grounds. And we're going to see those rainfall rates coming down maybe 1 inch per hour, 2 inch per hour, and that's going to add up locally to 3 to 5 inches. And that's what we're concerned for today and also for tomorrow. And then we move it to the southern plains once again, the high plains. We're looking at the chance for severe storms. We saw that last night, overnight, into this morning, and we're going to see it once again, or at least expecting it. Amarillo to Lubbock, Abilene, San Angelo, we're expecting the chance for those storms. Where you see those yellow shading, that's from the Severe Prediction Center, and that's showing us where the likeliest spots for those storms are. But Fort Worth could see some storms as well into Wichita Falls. Really large hail. We're looking at the chance for baseball-sized hail, winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. And where you see that hatched area, those blue lines, that's where we're expecting the baseball-sized hail as we go throughout tonight. And that causes some damages to cars, houses. By Wednesday, we're looking at the same spots. It extends a little bit for the chance of severe storms. We're looking at winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. Let's talk about the cooking, because we are looking at temperatures so above normal for this time of year, into the mid-80s in Chicago, Minneapolis, 14 degrees above average in Chicago, into the mid-80s in Omaha, St. Louis. Not showing on the map, though, we could see temperatures soaring into the 90s in some spots. It's going to be warm, too, in Cincinnati, 83 degrees. By tomorrow, we'll see some of this warmth slide to the east. So Cincinnati, 6 degrees above what is typical for this time of year. And you need to dress light in St. Louis tomorrow, because we're looking at temperatures near 90 degrees. That's 9 degrees above average. Nice for spring as we head towards Memorial Day weekend. We're looking at New York City into the 70s on Friday and 73 on Saturday. Back to you both.
Like that holiday forecast. All right.
Yeah, love it,
I
Michelle.
know.
Thank you.
Me too.
Welcome back. This morning, Ukraine not backing away from the decimated town of Bakhmut.
After Moscow declared a triumphant victory in the eastern city, Ukrainian officials in Kyiv signaled that they are working to encircle Bakhmut. NBC News has not been able to verify either Russia's or Ukraine's claims. For more, we are joined by NBC News foreign correspondent Molly Hunter, who's in Kharkiv. Molly, so this battle for Bakhmut has dragged on since last summer. Some experts say it doesn't really have a lot of strategic value. What's the latest there? And have officials on either side said why they're trying so hard to hold on to it?
Yeah, guys, good morning to you. That's right. So I think a little of this is the fog of war. As we talked about over the weekend, there were very strong claims from both the Wagner mercenary chief, Yevgeny Prigozhin, whose forces have really fought and held that front line for Russia. Then, of course, on Sunday, we had the official confirmation from Russian state TV that President Putin congratulated troops. What we're hearing from Kyiv officials, from Ukrainian officials, is they're trying to reframe this as they are still pushing ahead on the flanks. They are still on the outskirts of the city, that they're not backing away. Interestingly, guys, look, as you said, it does not have a lot of strategic value on the Russian side. Incredibly symbolic. This really would be their first big win since last summer, and definitely a propaganda win back home. But Ukrainian commanders have long said, really for the last 9 months, that part of their strategic goal in continuing to fight so hard is, guys, it ties up a ton of Russian forces, a ton of resources right there, which allow Ukrainian forces to organize and rearm and get ready for that counteroffensive elsewhere. I do just want to drop a little bit of breaking news. We just heard, we've been talking about those F-16s and the kind of commitment from the international coalition to start training pilots and then, of course, to start delivering F-16s. Well, the EU foreign policy chief actually was just speaking to reporters in Brussels. He says, I am happy that finally the training of the pilots for the F-16s has started in several countries. No details on exactly where, but certainly Europe is off to the races on this.
That certainly is some news, something that Ukraine's asked for quite some time now. And Molly, I know you're in Kharkiv, not far from the Russian city of Belgorod, where Russia says it is battling a cross-border incursion. What's going on there?
Yeah, guys, it's really, really hard to figure out exactly what's happening. So that's, as you say, we are in Kharkiv. It's 25 miles from the Russian border, and the region of Belgorod is just the town of Belgorod, and the region is just 25 miles over that border. So what we are learning from kind of verified videos, our NBC News team has verified videos that popped up on social media yesterday, basically showing an attack of some kind on a border crossing. Now, we did just get an official statement from the Russian Ministry of Defense, and they have said more than 70, quote, Ukrainian terrorists, 4 armored combat vehicles and 5 pickups were destroyed. Now, the regional governor is saying they're basically doing kind of a security sweep, a raid of some sort. He says the cleaning of the territory by the Ministry of Defense together with law enforcement agencies continues. Now, guys, a group called the Free Russia Legion, which says its ranks are made up by Russian citizens, they have claimed the attacks, multiple attacks. Ukrainian officials are really trying to cast this as kind of division internally inside Russia. Russia with Russian rebels, anti-Kremlin rebels. Really have no idea, though, at this point, who's behind those attacks, who's really involved in those attacks, and if Ukraine or Ukrainian officials had anything to do with backing those attacks, guys.
All right, Molly, thank you for your reporting. As always, stay safe.
All right, more international headlines now. Authorities investigating a tragic overnight fire in a school dorm that killed at least 19 students in Guyana.
NBC's Claudio Lubanga joins us from Rome with that and other world news. Claudio, good morning.
Good morning, guys. That's right. The president of Guyana has declared now 3 days of national mourning after at least 19 children died in a fire in a school dormitory. Now, both the police and the firefighters say the fire at the school's female dormitory was maliciously set. At the time of the blaze, it was reported that 56 children were staying at the dorm. 18 girls and 1 boy died, and many of the children have been hospitalized. An investigation is ongoing. Now let's go to India, where parts of the country are bracing for yet another scorching heat wave. In recent days, the temperature has reached 113 degrees in the north of India, causing power cuts and blackouts and leaving hot and angry residents with no air conditioning, fans, or even water. The months of April, May, and June are typically hot in India, but scientists say heat waves have been made more unbearable by climate change. Now, Indians are now hoping that monsoons will soon bring rain and cooler temperatures. Now let's end this tour of the world in the Mekong region in Southeast Asia, where the World Wildlife Fund warned that nearly 400 species are at risk of becoming extinct. Now, the species, including plants, fish, amphibians, reptiles, and 1 mammal, were discovered by scientists in the last 3 years. But while the discoveries highlighted the rich biodiversity of the area, it also underlines the need to protect it. One of the new species, an orchid, apparently has been described as a character, or looking like a character, out of the Muppet Show. I don't see that. I mean, it looks quite scary to me. It would probably make children cry, but I don't know whether you see anything out of the Muppet Show in that orchid.
I'd have to take a closer look at it again.
Right, I did not recognize any Muppets there, but yeah, it sounds like a nightmare Muppet the way you described it, Claudio. We'll look into that. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're back now with a major new warning from the U.S. Surgeon General about social media. He is releasing a new advisory over the potential harm social media can have on kids and teens. And it comes as tech companies face increasing pressures from parents and lawmakers alike to increase protections for kids online. NBC News Now anchor and senior Washington correspondent Hallie Jackson joins us with more on this. Hallie, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning to you. And listen, this is a significant move from the Surgeon General. He tells me he's worried that we just don't know enough about what being on these platforms does to the mental health of kids and teens. He's making clear it's not all on parents to figure out how to keep kids safe online. And he's arguing tech companies and lawmakers need to do more.
For decades, there's been that Surgeon General's warning on packs of cigarettes. But this morning, for the first time, a new warning about something else, social media and what it means for kids' mental health.
Why now for this advisory?
We're issuing this advisory to sound the alarm.
Surgeon General Vivek Murthy says there's not enough evidence to show social media platforms are safe enough for kids and teens.
We see rates of depression and anxiety and suicide and loneliness going up among young people. And I'm concerned that social media is an important driver of that youth mental health crisis. This is the defining public health issue of our time, youth mental health.
Research shows 95% of teens are on social media. More than a third say they're on constantly. And teens spend an average of 3.5 hours each day on these kinds of apps, something research shows can double the risk of experiencing symptoms of depression and anxiety.
The other day, my daughter came up to my wife and I and asked us if she could post a picture on social media.
How old is she?
My daughter is 5 years old. She's actually in preschool, but she's been hearing about this from her friends.
All of the big platforms require users to be at least 13 years old to create accounts, but nearly 40% of kids ages 8 to 12 say they've used social media too. Tech expert Max Stossel sees it in the conversations he's had in the past 6 years with more than 100,000 students, parents, and teachers.
When I started doing this work, I was getting the question, is 16 too young to give my kid a smartphone? Now I'm getting the question, is like 3rd grade too young to give my kid a smartphone?
Stossel recommends 14, but ultimately the right age may be different for different families.
you are almost certain to get pushback from tech companies who say they're trying to protect kids. They have age limits in place.
I appreciate that the technology companies have taken some steps to try to keep kids safe, but it hasn't been nearly enough.
The Surgeon General thinks Congress can and should do more to regulate social media companies, the same way safety standards are in place for car seats, for example. And at home, the advisory recommends creating a family media plan together, implementing tech-free zones like at mealtimes, and partnering with other parents with similar philosophies for support.
What's at stake here is our kids and their future, plain and simple.
The Surgeon General's advisory acknowledges, listen, there are benefits, right, to teens being on social media. The ability to connect, the ability to have friendships, to find support. We've reached out to some of the biggest social media platforms on this, waiting to hear back. But we know that many of them have put some safety precautions in place. Look at Meta, for example. They prompt teens to take a break. They have a family center and guides to help people, Joe. It really is a debate for each family. You know, my daughter is 3, and I'm already thinking about it. You heard the Surgeon General say his kids are 5 and 6. He and his wife plan to wait until their kids are out of middle school before they get on social media. I mean, it's a long time, and some kids really want to do it, but it's one of these things that every family's got to be thinking about.
Yeah, and you've been thinking about it now already with your kid only 3 years old. I have to admit, this year have not done social media. I initially took a month off. At all. Took a month off, and it's open-ended now, and it is one of the healthiest choices I've made for my brain. So
we got to talk about not just for teens is the bottom line, Joe. That's very interesting.
Exactly. Well, I'm almost a teenager, right, Hallie?
At heart.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Hallie. Appreciate that report.
All right, let's bring in Beatrice Moyes for more on these new guidelines. She's a parenting coach and cognitive specialist. She's also the author of Our Neurodivergent Journey, A Child Like Mine. Beatrice, thanks so much for being here this morning. And we just heard some tips on how parents can get involved in creating plans for social media. I have a 13-year-old niece, and just broaching this conversation, it's hard to make it not seem like a punishment. So how can parents talk about this?
Thank you for having me. First and foremost, it has to be an open conversation. It has to be a conversation where it's a judgment-free zone so that parents understand that their child can't feel like they're being judged, because teenagers don't want to be judged. So open conversation and letting kids know that it's okay, but we have to set limits and rules with how this is going to look.
So let's reemphasize a point here. 95% of teens are on social media. 95%. So for a lot of kids not being on social media, that can be an isolating experience, which is also a negative thing. So how much do kids and teens rely on apps to connect with their friends? And what does happen when parents take those online connections away?
I mean, those numbers are pretty real, because this is how children communicate. My generation, we would text each other. If you text a child now, they will not receive it. Their main form of communication is through some form of social media app. So this is their way of communicating. This is how they talk to one another. So if you don't have that, you're automatically outcasted. You're automatically removed from your peers, and you're removed from the social environment that you're in. So it is important for us to realize that this is how children are communicating, but how can we make them communicate safely? How do we make sure that they just communicate where they're going to be, what they're doing, but they're not sticking around and, entertaining the other things that social media has that can impact their psychological, emotional, and mental health?
And if you are in a family where you try to limit the screen time for your children, is there something that parents can do to try to help foster relationships outside of social media?
There are a lot of things that parents can do, especially model proper behavior. That's the first thing. You want to show children how to do social media correctly, but enjoy fun with them. Have fun with your kids and teens. Teens are not adults. Teens are kids. So that means they want to be part of the family fun activities. They want to be part of the board game. They want to be part of the family movie. They want to be part of the activities that's happening. So teens are not adults. They're young kids, just a little bit older.
So much of what they want, actually, I found out from my nieces and nephews, is just time and attention if you have to give it to them. All right, Beatrice Moyes, thanks so much.
Welcome back. This weekend is Memorial Day, which is the unofficial start of summer, but I guess you could say the official start of the summer travel season.
Certainly is, and airports nationwide are bracing for one of the biggest travel days they've seen in nearly 2 decades now. Joining us is NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport with more on what the airline industry is doing and what we can do to get ready on our own. Good morning, Maggie.
Hey guys, good morning. Yeah, airports across the country, O'Hare included, expecting the start of that travel surge as soon as tomorrow, with an estimated 10 million people expected to pass through America's airports this holiday weekend. Those are the highest totals we've seen since, as you said, well before the pandemic. And this year, airlines and airports say they're ready.
With the official kickoff to the summer travel season here, airports across the country are already packed with travelers.
We almost missed a flight. We waited in line at Clear for over an hour. It's probably some of the worst domestic travel I've ever experienced.
AAA predicts this Memorial Day weekend will see the strongest air travel numbers since 2005. The TSA expects 10 million people to travel through airports, up 11% from last year.
We do expect a very busy summer. We're excited about it. And we're working very hard to make sure that we have a successful summer season.
Airlines have been scrambling for months to keep up with anticipated demand. All of them have been staffing up, with American Airlines and Delta recently reaching deals with their pilots. The TSA says it's already seeing improved recruiting and employee retention rates ahead of a July 1st pay increase. All industry efforts to avoid the travel nightmares seen last summer. 2022 Memorial Day mayhem caused by flight delays and cancellations due to bad weather and serious staffing issues.
We are staffed up now more than we were prior to the pandemic, and we are at our highest level since in the last 2 decades.
In a move to help get passengers to their gates more quickly, TSA will now allow teens ages 13 to 17 to go through pre-check with an enrolled parent or guardian traveling on the same reservation, though the parent must have the pre-check indicator on their ticket.
Okay, so with all that in mind, some steps you can take to try and ensure a smooth trip. Experts say if you're driving yourself to the airport, look into reserving a spot ahead of time. They also say, of course, always try to get there early, at least 2 hours before domestic flights. That's the golden rule. Even more, though, before international flights. And finally, experts say download your airline's app well ahead of time so you can get those alerts about possibly delayed or canceled flights and then rebook quickly if need be. Joe, Stephen, I'll send it back to you.
A lot of good tips. All right, Maggie, thank you. All right, turning now to our ongoing series, AI Revolution. You often hear the word Photoshop to say a picture has been changed or altered. Well, today, Adobe is releasing a new version of that software that incorporates a kind of revolutionary AI imagery.
NBC News technology correspondent Jake Ward got an exclusive look at the new Photoshop. He joins us now with a look at how this combination of real pictures and artificial art's changing creativity and really our definition of what's real.
That's right. I mean, we have always thought of Photoshop as the verb for something being digitally altered, but now in this new world of AI art, believing your eyes is going to be even more difficult.
Technology makes it difficult, maybe even impossible, to tell what's real and what's not.
Born in 1987, Adobe's Photoshop became the way a trained designer could alter reality. But now, AI-powered art takes no more skill than typing a few words. That means anyone can make an alien world or a fake news photo. Now, the new Photoshop allows you to add AI to your pictures.
Photoshop for a generation has been the verb for digital creativity. Will we still talk about photoshopping things in a generation?
I think the era of Photoshop just went into hyperactive mode.
We got an exclusive first look at the new AI-powered version. They wouldn't let me bring in my own images, but in their demo, they showed me how to make a dog portrait a bit fancier.
So I could say spring, trees with sunshine, and I'm going to hit generate.
Wow. Add artificial objects or backgrounds, and Photoshop will blend them with what's real.
We'll type in a puddle.
I would imagine that in the old days, water is kind of the bane of a Photoshop expert's existence. And here's the reflection of everything. How hard would this have been using classic Photoshop?
This would have likely been easily hours of work.
In the short term, experts say certain jobs will be lost.
You'll definitely get creative agencies saying, we don't have to hire $1 million agency to do this for us anymore. But I think we'll find at the high end, you still need to hire the best artists in the world.
There's a lot of AI work.
Adobe's David Wadhwani says AI art will not wipe out his company.
In the next 2 years, we expect to see a 5x increase in the amount of content being produced. We're effectively creating the opportunity for creative professionals to keep up with the demand.
But of course, combining AI with real photos raises some ethical problems.
What are you guys prepared to do in sort of taking responsibility for that new world?
We've introduced something called content credentials, and that basically says any content you come across on the internet will have a nutrition label.
Those labels will verify whether we're being shown images made or altered by AI, Wadhwani says. Because maybe in a world where it takes almost no training to tweak reality, we'll need to be able to trust something other than our eyes.
Wow, so futuristic. And Jake, so where does this fall? Where does the responsibility fall? You talked about the ethics behind it.
Right.
Is it the companies? Is it individuals?
Well, the company, Adobe, I spoke to their general counsel yesterday, and they are launching something today along with the product called the Content Authenticity Initiative. And basically what this is a consortium of about 1,000 companies that's going to try to band together and create a kind of voluntary framework in which they're going to watermark images. What they're trying to do is train us to basically look for that watermark. So yesterday, you guys, you saw this fake image of the Pentagon on fire. It went crazy on Twitter. It tanked the S&P 500 for a couple hours. It is a big deal. What they're hoping, Adobe's hoping, is that in the future, we won't believe an image like that if it doesn't carry this special label. But it's important to note here, of course, there are no regulations around this yet. It's the Wild West of this, and it's having an enormous effect on geopolitics and on our understanding of the truth.
And you have to get folks to check that label and actually want to verify things.
That's correct. That's right.
Jake Ward, Jake, fascinating. Thank you so much.
All right, turn to some financial headlines now, starting with a brand new Walgreens settlement involving Theranos.
CNBC's Silvana Henao joins us with that and other money news. Silvana, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Stephen. Yeah, so Walgreens has reached a tentative settlement with consumers who received blood tests from Theranos in Arizona and California and claimed the drugstore chain was willfully blind to fraud at the company. Documents show lawyers for Walgreens and consumers expect to submit a request for court approval in about 3 weeks. And terms of the settlement haven't been disclosed. Walgreens had a partnership with Theranos to offer blood tests at its stores. Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes is set to begin serving a more than 11-year prison sentence next week. Larry Ellison may be throwing his support and money behind Senator Tim Scott's bid for the White House. CNBC has learned the Oracle co-founder and Republican mega donor reportedly plans to spend upwards of $60 million on Scott's campaign. Ellison has donated at least $30 million to a pro-Scott super PAC since 2021. And Ellison, who has a net worth of about $114 billion, attended Scott's kickoff announcement yesterday. And Venmo is launching accounts for teen users, joining Cash App and other financial services players catering to young people. Parents and guardians will be able to open accounts for kids ages 13 to 17 to send and receive money. They'll also get debit cards linked to their accounts, and parents will be able to track their kids' transactions and manage privacy settings. The new accounts will start rolling out in June, guys.
All right. Be a good thing if it teaches kids to be responsible with money at a young age.
Yeah, absolutely. If it can teach them to be responsible and not to just go and spend it all.
There you go. We'll see. All right,
We'll
Silvana.
see.
Thank you.
It could be a double whammy for Los Angeles Lakers fans. After being swept out of the playoffs by the Denver Nuggets last night, Lakers superstar LeBron James hinted he may be mulling retirement.
We'll see what happens going forward. But I don't know. I got a lot to think about, to be honest. And just for me personally, going forward with the game of basketball, got a lot to think about.
Pretty cryptic. All right, for more on this, we're joined by a sports business reporter at Sportico, Eben Novy-Williams. Eben, thanks so much for being with us. So LeBron has hinted multiple times, though, that he's wanted to play in the NBA with his son, who likely wouldn't be able to enter the league until the 2024-25 season. So what's up with this possible retirement talk?
Very cryptic there from LeBron, as you said. I think that LeBron is at the age 38 where every season ends and he's going to think about, do I want to do this again? Do I want to put my body through this? There's so much financial motivation for him to keep playing. He's the highest paid athlete in the world right now, but he's not someone who needs the financial motivation, right? So I'm sure he's going to think about his legacy. He's going to think about the money. He's going to think about, as you said, his son Bronny, who he has said he wants to play with in the NBA for at least one season. I would be shocked if this is the end of LeBron's storied NBA career. But again, when you're 38 years old in the NBA, I think every year when you hit the offseason, you're going to think about, do I want to do this again?
How cool would it be to see dad and son play together? I mean, so this was just an up and down year for the Lakers. In many ways, getting to the Western Conference Finals was a big achievement considering how their season started. But of course, this is LeBron James. He wants to win a title. That's all he cares about. What do you think the Lakers have to do in the offseason to just make sure he comes back?
I'm sure part of it is a money thing, a happiness thing. But to be totally honest, I think this is a LeBron decision, right? Again, this is someone who has done things his own way his whole career. I'm not sure how much sweetening the pot really matters here. The Bronny James thing is so interesting because he wants to play on that team, right? He needs to be a free agent to make that happen. He can't just choose, obviously, to play wherever he wants under contract. So I'm sure the Lakers are going to give him time to think, is my guess. And you're right. This was he has the highest standards probably of any NBA player ever outside of Michael Jordan. Getting to the conference finals for most teams, most players is a huge success. I don't think he would view this season that way. But the truth is he's still one of the best players in the league, right? Even at 38 years old, he is still a dominant NBA player. So physically, I do believe if he wanted to keep doing it, he could.
I don't have a lot of time left here, Eben, but if James were to walk away, it would end one of the greatest careers in NBA history. What do you think? How will he be remembered? What will his legacy be?
I think you summed it up right there. It's one of the greatest players of all time, certainly the best player of the last 20 years, a dominant figure both on the court and then also off the court, where he's done, business-wise with his school, so many really impactful things that have resonated across the NBA for younger players as well.
All right, a lot of people are going to be watching this one. Eben, thank you. Welcome back. The trailer is finally out for the long-awaited new movie adaptation of The Color Purple. It's based on the Tony Award-winning musical adaptation of Alice Walker's classic novel, and it stars singers Halle Bailey, currently starring in The Little Mermaid, of course, as well as her and Fantasia. Producers of the new film adaptation include Oprah and Steven Spielberg, and it's set to hit theaters on Christmas Day. A lot of excitement for this one.
No kidding. The play was absolutely fantastic, and what a cast in that one. It's going to be pretty good. All right, thanks, Stephen. Finally, this hour, we are hearing from Patsy and Peggy Lynn for the first time since the passing of their mother, country music icon Loretta Lynn. Earlier this morning, they sat down with our friends at Today to share memories and discuss a new book that Loretta worked on before she died. Here's some of their exclusive conversation.
Just thinking about Mother's Day just passing, too, and thought about you guys on that particular day. What did you do on that day?
I made homemade banana pudding. My mom's favorite thing in the world was banana pudding, and when all else failed, that's what we could get her to eat. And so, and I always, her assistant, Tim Cobb, who just passed away as well, he would always, I told him, love is kind and love is gentle and love is banana pudding, because that's truly, that was my honoring for her, is to make that homemade banana pudding for her. And so those are the things that do live on in that sort of, don't you think?
I just think you have to surround your, we're from a big family, and you surround yourself with family on those days that are hard. That's what gets you through it.
And Patsy, the other thing that lives on is this beautiful book,
Isn't
this
that
devotional.
It comes out today.
Yeah, it is gorgeous, and it's filled with her words.
Yes.
Her words on heaven. She said in it, I think heaven must be the happiest place on earth.
Yes.
Does that give you all comfort?
It does, because that was one of the things that Peggy and I said, no matter what faith people have in their lives or whatever, my mom was a strong believer, and it gave us hope to see her again and for her to know that she's going to see us again. And that was just, what more can you ask for?
And this was something she was working on right until her very last days. It feels like a gift, a way to comfort us.
Actually, Mom was one of those people who, just that energy, she was working on several different things, and she was still writing songs and all kinds of stuff. She just always had so many irons in the fire. And
creativity is creativity, and no matter what, you never stop. And her friend Kim McLean, who is an award-winning songwriter, and she's also an ordained minister. So it kind of worked out, to where, they talked, they sang, they studied. It was beautiful.
Thanks to our friends over at Today for that conversation. The book, A Song and a Prayer by Loretta Lynn, is available now wherever you buy books. I hope that banana pudding recipe is in the back of the book. That'd be great.
No kidding, yeah. People love banana pudding. And Coal Miner's Daughter, there's so many legendary things associated with her.
One of
so
the
we
greatest.
appreciate them sharing.
All right, that does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
But your news continues right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.